Hello and welcome. Tonight, marking the most important day in the Christian calendar, Pope Francis calls on Russia to seek the truth about its invasion of Ukraine. Just over 10 months after terrorists attacked the congregation, St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church Owo reopens with the clergy criticizing government's handling of the tragedy. At least 15 people burned to death in a road accident in Ozala community in Enugu State. China continues what Taiwan describes as provocative troop and equipment drills around its waters. Happy Easter to all our Christian brothers and sisters. Well, Easter is a Christian holiday, a festival, a Christian festival that is, that marks the resurrection of Jesus Christ after he was crucified on the cross 3 days earlier at Calvary. The day symbolizes the triumph of life over death for Christian faithful around the world. It is also the high point of the Passion of Jesus Christ, preceded by a period of Lent with a 40-day period of fasting and prayer. And like their counterparts around the world, Christians in Nigeria converged on different worship centers, including at the Holy Cross Cathedral in Lagos Island, to celebrate and reflect the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Well, outside our shores, Pope Francis has asked Russia to seek the truth about its invasion of Ukraine in his Easter message to the world earlier today, and renewed an appeal for dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians following recent violence. Now, the 86-year-old pontiff presided a solemn Easter Day Mass, or at a solemn Easter Day Mass in the sunny St. Peter's Square after a week of unseasonal cold that forced him to skip an outdoor service on Friday as a precaution following his hospitalization for bronchitis at the end of March. After the Mass, Pope Francis went up the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to deliver his twice-yearly "That's to the City and the World" message and blessing. There, from the same spot where he first appeared to the world as Pope on the night of his election in 2013, he spoke of the darkness and gloom in which all too often our world finds itself enveloped, and then prayed to God for peace. Back here in Nigeria, still in the spirit of the Easter, we start off in the southwest region, where it proved to be a mix of significant sadness tinged with a bit of joy as congregants of St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, returned to the church for the first time since the massacre that took place in the church premises on June the 5th, 2022. The presiding cleric and bishop of Ondo Catholic Diocese, while thanking God for his mercies and grace, remained quite critical of the handling of last year's incident by the authorities.
Easter Sunday, April 9th, 2023. The gates of St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church are thrown open to parishioners 10 months after members were attacked during Mass on June 5th, 2022.
We come here again today to open this place of worship and to ask God for His mercy and forgiveness.
Having witnessed the reopening of the church, the congregation trooped in to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Sad memories, no doubt, but gratitude to God for the grace to witness another Easter is perhaps enough to sing and dance. This joy of returning to the place of worship is captured in the homily by the Bishop of Ondo Catholic Diocese while delivering lessons on the significance of Easter. Bishop Arungudade expresses unhappiness about the authorities' handling of what he described as embarrassment to the church and Nigeria.
The government must wake up and show strength and courage and make sure those who carried out the evil that took place in this church and those who are carrying out the evils that are going on around our country are brought to book and are punished accordingly.
For the congregants, especially those who witnessed the attack, it's mixed feelings, thanking God for sparing their lives and also remembering those who lost theirs.
If my body is full of mouth, it is not enough to thank the Almighty for what He has done for me and my family and other churches, other members of the church, not only me. I thank God. God is a marvelous God. He cared for we. And God will continue to guide and protect us in the name of Jesus.
June 5 is a day we'll never forget. Those who perpetrated it, I don't know why they came. Up till now, I don't know why they came, what they came for. In fact, we collected money that day. They didn't touch even the money. So they didn't come for money. They came for destruction. And I wonder why they came.
Even as St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church reopens for worship, many among this congregation will be hoping that better attention will be given to security so that what happened in 2022 will not reoccur.
Hatred has no redeeming values, or the current state of hate does not define us, and we need to slow it down. We must listen to one another and seek reconciliation. In the end, only true Christian love can redeem us. These are the words of the Bishop of the Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kuka. They are contained in his Easter message, which he directed to different interests in the country. In the message, Bishop Kuka challenged the president on taking a self-appraisal in light of the goals he set for himself before taking over as the president of Nigeria. Bishop Kuka asked, "As you prepare to return to Daura or Kaduna, I do not know if you feel fulfilled or that you met the tall dreams and goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry, defeating corruption, bringing back our girls, belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody, selling off our presidential fleet and traveling with us, etc." In his message to the president-elect, Bishop Kuka wants him to consider taking up the mission of national unity before anything else, since according to him, quote, "For now, the most urgent mission is to start a psychological journey of making Nigerians feel whole again, of creating a large tent of opportunity and hope for us all, of expanding the frontiers of our collective freedom, of cutting off the chains of ethnicity and religious bigotry, of helping us recover from the feeling of collective rape by those who imported the men of seven darkness that destroyed our country, of recovering our country and placing us on the path to our greatness, of exercising the ghost of nepotism and religious bigotry." Bishop Kuka wants the judiciary not to be left out of the message, where the bishop tasked them to be wary of some members of the political class who may want to compromise its reputation. He said the future of the country lies in the hands of the judiciary. Bishop Kuka in the message tasked the youth on learning from their mistakes. He also wants them to learn the rules of good sportsmanship, to know when to fight, what to fight for, and know when to walk away to embrace other fights. The Catholic Archbishop of Lagos, Most Reverend Alfred Adewale Martins, is asking the incoming Nigerian government to ensure it works for peace and reconciliation across the nation. This formed the crux of his Easter message during the Sunday Easter service. At the Cathedral Church of Christ in Marina, the priest admonished the congregants to live like Christ lived. Our correspondent Darido reports.
The victory of Jesus Christ is celebrated across denominations. Hymns about resurrection fill the air at the Holy Cross Cathedral on Lagos Island. The Congregants are thankful for the opportunity to gather in joy and give glory to God. The Catholic Archbishop of Lagos, Adewale Martins, wants the church to live like Jesus Christ.
If we all just made the effort to live as Jesus lived, speak with his voice, and act in the same way as he acted towards all people, then certainly we shall be able to bring about reconciliation and the unity of life and purpose that is needed for peace and progress.
It delves into national and political issues as it links resurrection in its message to the church.
To call on those who have been elected into political offices to make it a priority to seek to redress all the issues that are agitating the minds of people. All of us, dear friends, must resist the urge to demonize people simply on the basis of where they come from or what religion they practice. Jesus was put to death, but he rose again, brought new life to all without discrimination.
At the Cathedral Church of Christ Marina, the congregants sing in one voice. The Easter Sunday message from the Provost is an admonition for Christian faithful. He wants the church to make the most of its existence by living as Christ lived on earth.
If you want to constantly live in the power of his victory, the victory of his resurrection, if you want this power to come into you, you must live as Christ lived. You must be sinless. That is the message for this year's Easter. This is not the first Easter we are going to celebrate, but we must make the most, we must understand the demand of this Easter celebration.
As the church celebrates, there are common themes among congregations, and for many, Easter is the joyful conclusion to the Lenten season of devoted prayer, fasting, and penitence. Gary Ido, Channels Television News.
Staying with the Easter celebration, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo is calling on Christians in Nigeria to learn the lesson of love demonstrated by the death of Jesus Christ and his resurrection. He was speaking to journalists after the Easter Sunday service, which was held at the Villa Chapel at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The service had in attendance the wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Dolapo Osinbajo, as well as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa.
My Lord, up from the grave he arose, in a mighty triumph for his soul.
It's a message of the amazing love of Jesus Christ, the amazing love of God, that he gave up his son so that you and I will not have to pay again for our sin. So it's an amazing day, a fantastic day, and I wish you all happy Easter and happy, a great and happy Resurrection morning. God bless you all.
In part two, after the break, at least 15 people burned to death in a road accident in Ozala community in Enugu State. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. Marking the most important day in the Christian calendar, Pope Francis calls on Russia to seek the truth about its invasion of Ukraine. Just over 10 months after terrorists attacked the congregation, St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo reopens with the clergy criticizing government's handling of the tragedy. At least 15 people burned to death in a road accident in Ozala community in Enugu State. And China continues what Taiwan describes as provocative troop and equipment drills around its waters. We're still talking the Easter celebrations, and the message of freedom of hope brought by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ was re-emphasized by clerics as Christians converged on worship centers in southern Nigeria. It was a time for congregants to express the joy of Easter through praise and worship and thanksgiving to God.
On this day, Christian faithful converge on various worship centers across the country to celebrate Jesus' resurrection. At the St. Matthew's Anglican Church in Bola Parish in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, parishioners celebrate the day in a unique way, beginning with what they call breakfast with Jesus.
If we want progress, development for our nation, then we must allow the new life that Christ has brought for us to be seen and revealed in us.
Christians at the Holy Cross Cathedral in Benin City, the Edo State capital, are reminded that the resurrection of the Christ has among its many benefits the hope that God has the final say in all situations as they celebrate Easter.
It is living without fear of death. Yes, it's Christ's resurrection. Death has been swallowed up in victory.
In Delta State, members of the St. Philip's Anglican Church Asaba observe Easter with hymns of praise.
Trust in Jesus. He will deliver us from whatever truth that we pass through in this nation.
The Easter church service at St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church, Ozuomoma in Oru East, Imo State, has in attendance top government officials, including the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma and his wife. In his Easter message, Governor Uzodinma urges residents to propagate love and peace.
If we have peace in Imo State, we'll be able to allow government the opportunity to use the resources meant for development to develop Imo.
Resurrection hymns are not in short supply as parishioners congregate at the St. Lawrence Anglican Church, Mboku, Anambra State. Among the worshippers is the Deputy Governor of Anambra State, Onyeka Ebezim, and his wife. The priest preaches the renewal of the hope of the resurrection for believers in Christ Jesus.
Because Jesus died and rose again, as believers, even though we die, we shall come back to life eternal in the name of Jesus Christ.
Singing and dancing at the Petty Parish of the Celestial Church of God in Ibadan capture the Easter mood across Oyo State. The shepherd in charge says Nigerians will fare much better if they imbibe the fear of God. A musical drama depicting the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is one of the main activities at the King's International Christian Center in Maryland, Lagos State. The resident pastor, Femi Fasheru, presents Jesus to the congregation as the only source that guarantees freedom from all the afflictions of life.
Easter celebration is very important. It must not be limited to the storyline of the Bible that Jesus died and he resurrected. We must bring it home to our hearts. We must bring it home to our lives.
The summation of the messages from the pulpit is that Jesus' resurrection offers freedom from death and the powers of hell, and that Christians should express this liberty by truly serving God through service to others in love.
From the Easter celebration in the southern part, let's head to the northern part, where the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Ignatius K. Gama, is appealing to all Christians to desist from engaging in verbal war over religion and tribe amidst the dust being raised by the 2023 general elections. Archbishop K. Gama, who was speaking during an Easter Mass in Abuja, also stressed the need for political office holders to be fair in their dealings by promoting the ideals of national unity. Also speaking at the special Easter service in Abuja, the primate of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Archbishop Henry Ndukuba, asked Nigerians to be hopeful, as he believes that the resurrection of Jesus Christ is an indication that Nigerians will overcome all challenges bedeviling the nation.
It's a moment of singing and dancing as Christian faithful converged on different churches to celebrate Easter. The Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, in his sermon, stresses the need for Nigerians to desist from engaging in verbal wars based on tribe and religion.
Let us use religion like Jesus did. We were told he went about doing good. That is the meaning of religion. Go about doing good. We go about doing evil. We go about destroying, killing. We go about shedding innocent blood, destroying people's property, and we say we are Muslim or Christian. We are not. It is only when we go about doing good that we can say we are people of religion, and we can beat our chest and say, yes, we know God.
Let all the members of your family. Some congregants engage in prayer for the nation as they observe the Easter celebration.
Some of us are not expecting anything. What are you expecting? What are you looking for?
The message of hope resonates as the Anglican Archbishop of Abuja and the General Overseer of the All Christians Fellowship Mission harp on the essence of Easter.
It gives us hope that the afflictions and sufferings and the challenges that we are passing through will not finish us. It will not be our end. Rather, because Jesus died and rose again, we have hope that the Lord will break every yoke and he will give life to us and our nation.
In the light of what we are going through as a people, as a nation, I believe that the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead is a clear confirmation that the triumph of evil over good is always temporal. So the message is simple. Truth cannot be buried. And no matter what you do, at the appropriate time it will resurrect.
As Nigerians learn to imbibe the message of Easter, the clergymen remain optimistic that better days lie ahead for all.
Staying in the northern part of the country, will love, hope, sacrifice, and service to humanity. Well, these were the words that dominated the sermons across churches in the northern region of Nigeria as Christians gathered to observe the Easter Sunday service. The significance of the resurrection of Jesus Christ also came to the fore as clerics encouraged Nigerians to keep hope alive in the face of numerous challenges confronting the nation. They also charged the leaders to serve the interest of the masses as exemplified by Jesus Christ, who offered himself to be crucified for the salvation of mankind.
It's the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and Christians in northern Nigeria have converged to observe the Easter Sunday service. A solemn yet reflective moment. Easter Easter is about love, sacrifice, hope, and forgiveness, and these form the thrust of messages by clerics.
We are celebrating Easter because it's so important to us to telling us the hope in Christ Jesus that one day we'll be resurrected with him.
If there was no resurrection, there is no Christianity. There will be no Christianity.
Ahead of the May 29 swearing-in ceremony, the Bishop of Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Bishop Kuka, has a message for the President-elect, just as the Bishop of Kaduna Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Timothy Yahaya, sets agenda for the newly elected politicians.
To the incoming President, I am hopeful that you will appreciate that the most urgent task facing our nation is not infrastructure or the usual cheap talk about dividends of democracy. These are important, but first, your challenge must be to keep us alive, to end banditry, because only the living can enjoy infrastructure.
People are not looking for looters, they are looking for leaders. They are looking for a leader that can make the dollar to be 1 naira to $1. People are looking for security where they can open their doors in the middle of the night, go to sleep, and nobody will kidnap them.
Their messages are re-echoed in other parts of the region. For some, it is also a time to seek forgiveness.
I want to ask for forgiveness for all those I have offended, knowingly, overtly, and unknowingly.
For others, Easter offers an opportunity to share with the needy, including those displaced by conflict and those incarcerated in correctional facilities, in line with the teachings of Jesus Christ.
The government should be able to provide a church and a mosque in every correctional center.
It is expected that the lessons learned from Easter celebration will not be forgotten after the day is over, but lived as a lifestyle, not just by Christians, but by all mankind across the globe.
Well, away from the Easter celebration and straight to Enugu, where at least 15 people have been confirmed to be burnt to death in a fatal automobile crash that occurred before the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital Ituku Ozala of Enugu State. According to the spokesperson, Federal Road Safety Corps, Mr. Bisi Kazim, the road crash was caused by excessive speed and route violation and involved a Mercedes-Benz tipper and an 18-seater commuter bus. Meanwhile, the Enugu State Police Command has ordered a full-scale investigation into the incident, which is said involved a tipper loaded with cement, which was traveling against traffic and had a head-on collision with the bus, which was coming from Aba in Abia State. Both vehicles burst into flames and all occupants burnt beyond recognition, except the driver of the tipper, who was found alive and is now in the hospital. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP and the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development CJID have sued the federal government over what they term illegal imposition of the 5 million naira fine placed on Channels Television. SERAP is asking the court to declare arbitrary, illegal and unconstitutional the fine imposed on Channels Television over a recent interview with the Labour Party vice presidential candidate, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed. The National Broadcasting Commission and Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, are joined in the suit as defendants. The NBC had recently fined Channels Television 5 million naira over the interview with Dati Baba Ahmed, and the NBC alleged that the interview violated the NBC code. Now, the rights group is asking for an order setting aside the 5 million naira fine for being inconsistent and incompatible with Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution and Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, amongst others. SERAP is also seeking an order directing and compelling the NBC to reverse its arbitrary and unlawful decision to impose a fine of 5 million naira on Channels Television forthwith. Well, Nigeria's 2023 election season could not have realistically produced a different outcome than what happened. Well, that's the view of the board chairman of Yaga Africa, Dr. Hussein Abdu. Dr. Abdu told Channels Television's Ladi Akeredolu on our election issues and personalities tracking program, Roadmap 2023, that the nation's degraded value system played a prominent role in this regard.
Fundamentally, the major driving issue on this issue in our electoral culture or desperate attitude to elections have to do with our values. The values that our politicians espouse, because that values is the major software that drives how we do things, what we do and what we don't do. Many times in Nigeria, our conversations are more instrumental, are more around structures and processes, but we don't look at systems and values. So many times we think about laws, we think about certain positions here, certain structures there, but we are not looking at what connects them and allow them to work seamlessly. And those things that connects them have a lot to do with our values, the value system. If we don't have it, you can't get it right. And like I always say, your elections cannot be better than your society. Your elections is a reflection of the character of your society. And the definer of your society is your culture, which is your political culture. And the major element in your political culture are your values. And so we don't speak around issues around values. Why would you kill someone because you want to win election? That's a fundamental question. What stops you from carrying arms? Why would you accept victory and not accept loss? These are issues that actually have to do with our values. And our politicians don't have the right democratic values.
Now, for the full interview with Dr. Abdu, do watch Roadmap 2023 tomorrow, Easter Monday, April the 10th at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. An academic and legal luminary, Professor Itzea Sage, has been speaking on the first set of goals ahead of the incoming administration and the need to tackle it headlong. Speaking on our political platform, Sunday Politics, Professor Sage asked the President-elect Bola Tinubu to quickly look into strengthening security and the economy. He wants the idea of subsidy removal to be jettisoned until stability is attained in the oil and gas sector.
What he should do first, as far as I'm concerned, the first thing, security. We have to make this country secure so that we can do our farming, go about our businesses without fear. The terrorism of these people coming from the forest to destroy us is simply unbearable. So that is the first thing it should do. That's first. The second thing it should do, all right, it has to do with the economics of the country. Petroleum, for example, I do not agree that the subsidy should be removed without us producing refined petrol in this country. Let him not be deceived. Anyone telling him remove subsidy is trying to ground his party and make him unpopular. So the subsidy must continue until refineries, Dangote, federal government, all the refineries, some refineries at least begin to work. Now, when we start producing petrol internally in the country, the cost of petrol products will drop sharply.
Well, in what may be described as the final round, the supplementary elections to Nigeria's 2023 general elections will be held on Saturday, April the 15th. The electoral umpire, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it is ready to conclude the following elections: 2 governorship seats in 36 seats at the National Assembly and 58 state houses of assembly seats. Well, to share insights about the upcoming election is Babajide Ogunsowo, a founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst. Babajide, it's great to have you again once again.
Yes, it is.
Yes, indeed. So we're talking about the elections that are yet to be held, the upcoming elections. Tell us, how much influence will the results of these upcoming elections, have on the political roadmap, if I may say, for this year, 2023?
The political roadmap, as you described it, is complicated. If they ask you to describe Nigeria's election and politics, just tell them it is more complicated than love. But there are several ways we could look at this. It's important to remember, where are we coming from? We're coming from a situation before the governorship elections where the APC was controlling 17 states, the PDP was controlling 11 states. Let's take a look at the results we have from the 26 states that have so far been declared. Look at these 15 states. These are the 15 states across the 26 states that we've had governorship elections that have been called for the APC. Here's what you need to look at. The big margins for the APC, Borno, Lagos. In the governorship elections, those are the two states that they've had more than 400,000 winning margin. Again, keep an eye on these 15 states. These are the 15 states that currently have been won by the APC in the governorship elections. Look at what's happened to Ogun and Kaduna. Two states, one governor is leaving Kaduna State. Kaduna was still able to win the governorship election, but look at that margin. Less than 11,000 votes. Look at Ogun State. Sitting governor in the APC winning his election, less than 14,000 votes. Again, a lot of these elections that have been won by the APC across these 15 states, the candidates that have come second and third are going to court. Keep an eye again on those two states, Ogun, Kaduna, Sokoto. What will happen in the tribunal? We are going to be interested in what exactly will go on. Again, look at those big numbers, Borno, Lagos, Katsina. But why do I say this election is complicated? Two things happened for the APC across these 15 states that they've won. Two states switched. Benue State was being held by the PDP before. It is now being held by the APC. Another big switch that we've seen in here is, if you look at Kwara State, you remember Kwara State was one of those big states that we've always said that whoever wins the presidential election in Kwara will eventually become president. So we've seen across all these 15 states, biggest surprise, Benue that we've seen that the PDP lost Benue. But let's look at what happened across the 9 states that the PDP won in the governorship election. Again, you see those 9 states. It's interesting to see what happened in Oyo, margin of over 300,000 for the sitting governor. But look at Enugu. Even though the PDP won, Enugu so far across the 26 states is that state that we've seen this closest margin, less than 5,000 votes declared, give the PDP the win in Enugu. So across what we've seen is 26 governorship elections so far held. We're expecting 2 more states. We've seen the PDP win 9 states. We've seen the APC win 15 states, and we've seen 2 states won by the smaller upcoming parties.
Interesting. Now, I just want to find out, Babajide, has the voting pattern actually changed from what we saw in the presidential election?
Yes, again, this thing is more complicated, more than love. Look at what's happened. Kano, Abia State. Before this election, remember those 2 numbers. The APC controlled 17, PDP 11. But the APC lost Kano in the governorship election. Margin 128,000. Abia, the PDP lost in Abia a margin in excess of 85,000. So what we've seen is 2 more governorship elections are expected next week in Adamawa and Kebbi. But what is certain is that because of the way things currently stand, none of the big parties, that's APC, PDP, will be in a better position than it was before the election. Here's what I mean. Currently, across the 26 states, APC has won 15. We're expecting only 2 more elections. Again, before this election, APC had 17 states. So whatever happens, APC cannot be better than its position before this election. Same thing with the PDP. Prior to this election, the PDP controlled 11 states. Now the PDP controls only 9 states. We are expecting elections from Adamawa and Kebbi. Again, the results are similar for APC and the PDP. Whatever happens, they will not be able to get more, they will not be in a better position than they were before this election because of the NNPP and the Labour Party. Look at what's going on in Adamawa State. We're expecting elections to be concluded in Adamawa State, but here's the interesting thing. Adamawa North won by the APC. However, won by the APC in the senatorial election. In the senatorial election, Adamawa Central, the PDP won. Adamawa South, the PDP won. So in the senatorial election that was conducted in Adamawa State, PDP won 2 zones, APC won 1. In the House of Reps, Ayo, across the 8 House of Representative seats, the PDP won 7 out of 8. We're expecting elections, governorship elections in Adamawa State to be concluded next week, but remember what happened during the presidential election. The PDP won big margins. Again, going into this governorship election, APC has only won 1 senatorial district. PDP now controls 2 senatorial districts, and all the House of Representatives in Adamawa State, excluding 1, now controlled by the PDP. It will be interesting to see what this result will be when the elections hold next week, Saturday. Let's look at Kebbi State. Kebbi, we're expecting supplementary senatorial elections in Kebbi North. However, senatorial elections have been concluded in Kebbi Central, the PDP won. Senatorial elections have been concluded in Kebbi South, the PDP won. But Kebbi is going to be a complicated state next week. Here's why I said 2 reasons why Kebbi is going to be complicated. Look at the presidential election results. PDP, 285,000. APC, 248,000. A very close presidential election. Plus, in Kebbi, there are 8 House of Representative seats. Elections have been concluded in 6. APC won 3, PDP won 3, and we're expecting 2 more elections, House of Reps elections, next week, Saturday. So it will be interesting to see what goes on in Adamawa and Kebbi. But let's not forget Ayo. Apart from these governorship elections, we're expecting elections in 36 seats of the National Assembly, and not to forget the grassroots. There are going to be elections across 58 state House of Assembly. So 58 state House of Assembly elections will be happening on Saturday. 36 National Assembly elections will be happening on Saturday, and 2 elections, governorship elections, Adamawa and Kebbi. As it stands again, currently based on the 26 governorship election results that have been declared, the APC has 15 states, the PDP 9 states, NNPP 1, and the Labour Party 1.
With just
this election, more complicated and
more complicated, and definitely we'll be keeping our tabs on that election as it unfolds. So thank you so much, of course, Babajide Oguso, for your thoughts here on the News at 10.
The pleasure is all mine.
Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have recovered 117 parcels of cocaine concealed in body spray cans at the Port Harcourt International Airport in Rivers State. The suspect, a 34-year-old South American man from Suriname, claims to be in Nigeria in search of his long-lost father, whom he identified as Omini. Meanwhile, in Kano, 2 suspects have been arrested with 120 blocks of cannabis weighing 148.7 kilograms along Zaria-Kano Road, and the NDLEA also revealed that 418.5 kilograms of the same substance and the bus used in transporting were apprehended at the Ojota garage. And now to the arts. Across Cultural Divide is a solo exhibition by Professor Sylvester Ebigaba in Enugu of Bayelsa State. We see the latest works of art captured by this scholar on Art Review tonight.
Professor Sylvester Ebigbaha, a professor of graphic design and communication who heads the Department of Fine and Applied Arts at the Niger Delta University in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, presents his latest collection in this solo exhibition, which began with an inaugural lecture before the guests were ushered to the back of the hall, where the images have been set up on easels.
The title of my exhibition is Across Cultural Divide. Nigeria is an heterogeneous society. As a whole, it is made up of different languages, cultures, environments. This affects the way we live, our activities. So for a people to be developed in a sustainable way, it has to be keyed to their sociocultural environment, their knowledge, attitude, and practices.
He tells us about what inspired this solo show and the 17 images which are being displayed today, either done during the 2020 pandemic or 2022 ASU strike.
The inspiration behind this work are many. We have a nation that is highly blessed with different people having different cultures, so rich. And this diversified behavior is enough to produce varied, tangible and intangible material culture. So when we harness these differences from the north, the south, the east, and the west, the result, the effect is a salutary one.
Across Cultural Divide is the title of this exhibition, which shows Nigeria's hybrid nature, and for this artist, understanding a society's culture, knowledge, preferences, and practice makes development interventions more sustainable.
Outside our shores, the Israeli government has rejected claims via a document allegedly leaked from the Pentagon that leaders of its foreign intelligence service, Mossad, has supported nationwide protests against a proposed overhaul of Israel's judiciary. According to the Office of the Prime Minister, the report is mendacious and without any foundation whatsoever. The administration states further that the Mossad and its senior officials did not and do not encourage agency personnel to join the demonstrations against the government, political demonstrations, or any political activity. A Taiwan military film shows troop movement in an unspecified location with soldiers on the move and air defense systems being deployed by China. Taiwan's defense ministry said it was closely monitoring all moves by China's forces amid heightened tensions between the two rivals. China, which claims democratically governs Taiwan as its own territory, began 3 days of military exercises around the island on Saturday, April the 8th, the day after Tsai returned from the United States. China, which has never renounced the use of force to bring the island under its control, says Taiwan is the most important and sensitive issue in its relations with the U.S. Beijing considers President Tsai a separatist and has rebuffed her repeated calls for talks. Time now for some sports news. Premier League leaders Arsenal blew a 2-goal lead this evening in a pulsating 2-2 draw at Liverpool to give Manchester City a fresh hope of retaining the English Premier League title. Mikel Arteta's men edged 6 points ahead of City at the top of the table, but the defending champions have a game in hand and host the Gunners in a potential title decider later this month. The goals from Brazilians Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus appeared to have the Gunners cruising towards an 8th consecutive league win. But then Egyptian international and Liverpool talisman Mohamed Salah pulled the goal back before halftime to spark a Liverpool fight back. He had a penalty also, but was missed. That's Mo Salah. And then substitute Roberto Firmino came on and headed in the equaliser 3 minutes from time. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace boosted their bid for Premier League survival with a 5-1 demolition of relegation rivals Leeds United. CAF President Patrice Motsepe has reiterated his desire to continue to invest in the youth following the completion of the inaugural edition of the African Schools Football Championship Continental Final in Durban, South Africa. CS Ben Siku Sila from Guinea and Fountain Gate School of Tanzania have been crowned champions of the boys and girls competitions. CS Ben Siku Sila defeated home favourites Clapham High School of South Africa on penalties, while Fountain Gate earned a 3-0 victory over Moroccan side Ecole Omar Ibn Khattab. The winning teams each received $300,000.
When you invest in youth football and when you invest in schools football, you are laying one of the best foundations to produce some of the best players from Nigeria and some of the best players in the African continent as well as South Africa. So we are absolutely confident, because what we've seen about the most successful nations in the world, football nations in the world, those nations invest extensively in schools football. So the focus and the promotion of schools football is one of the best investments we can make.
A world number one, Novak Djokovic hopes for a strong start to his clay court season at the Monte Carlo Masters, with eventual success at Roland Garros in mind. The Serb is back on court after failing to get a waiver to enter the United States for last month's Indian Wells tournament and Miami Open due to his anti-COVID vaccination stance.
Well, last couple of years I'm used to it, you know. I mean, I haven't played America last year at all, and then now this year again, so, but that's okay, you know, it is what it is. I did more training on clay, which is, of course, positive if you think about the clay season. And, you know, I haven't had much success in Monte Carlo in the last 3 years. I haven't played really good tennis here, so I'm hoping that this year I can start the clay season better than I did in the previous years, and hopefully build my form as I'm coming closer to Paris.
Israel Adesanya has knocked out Alex Pereira with several brutal right hands at 4 minutes 21 seconds of the second round in the main event of UFC 287 at the Kaseya Center. With a violent victory, Adesanya regained the UFC middleweight championship. He's the first two-time middleweight champion in UFC history and only the 4th out of 15 fighters to win their titles back in an immediate rematch. Pereira was doing well and had Adesanya against the cage, but then Adesanya countered with a massive right hand that hurt Pereira, and then followed up with another right hand and a left hook that eventually put Pereira down. Finally tonight, the remains of the late Minister of Justice, Prince Bola Ajibola, has been laid to rest according to Islamic rites at his Islamic Movement for Africa Center in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Prince Ajibola, who died earlier today, was a judge of the World Court, the ICJ, as well as Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. The dignitaries, which included the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and his wife, Dolapo, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Ogun State Deputy Governor Noimat Salako Uyedele, a former Governor Olusegun Oshoba, among others, attended the burial prayer. The Vice President, Professor Osinbajo, giving his condolence speech, described the late Bola Ajibola as a humanist who contributed immensely to education and development of the country, among other achievements.
Here was a man who I first met him when I was about 28 years old or 29 years old, when he appointed me a special advisor to him. At the time, he was Federal Attorney General, you know, and I worked with him from that time for about 5 years. I think something that he demonstrated even while I worked with him was a belief in this nation, a belief in our country as a united nation. But more importantly, that one could serve in the public domain with integrity, you know, with altruism, you know, and he demonstrated it throughout his life. First, he did not accept to be paid a salary when he was Attorney General. So here was a man who truly believed that that the worth of a person is what he's able to give back to society, and he demonstrated it throughout his life. So I think it's a life that ought to be celebrated, and it's a life that's an example to us all.
And the main news again. Pope Francis today joined other Christian faithful to mark the Easter celebration. And in his Easter message, he asked Russia to seek the truth about its invasion of Ukraine and appealed for dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians following recent violence. Parishioners in St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State today converged for service for the first time since June 2022, when terrorists invaded the church, killing worshippers. The clergy has criticized government's handling of the tragedy. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Good night.